Your glance is unnerving. I have to get used to it.
Oh, good, good,
Good.
good. I like to unnerve
Okay.
people.
When I told a friend of mine how I was going to start introducing Sylvia Sidney tonight as the actress with perhaps the longest career in the history of American film, although I have to qualify that. My friend said, "Oh, you can't say that. That's insulting." And I said, "Well, the first time I talked to her, she said she's going to be 88 in August, so it's not as though she's trying to hide
That's,
anything."
a couple of weeks from now.
So, but uh, she's heading for the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't think you've quite made it that. Your competition is Helen Hayes, Lillian Gish, and somebody you'll be surprised
Yeah, but they're
about.
both dead.
And you're still here and still working, but there's only
And I'm
one,
still employable.
and still employable as we know, and we'll get to that. And the only actor who is competition, and it will surprise you, who has the longest career, about the same length as yours, is Mickey Rooney. His first film was
Yeah, but he's
1926.
fat.
1926. Yeah. Miss Sidney started on the stage in about, can you hear? Is the voice all right? Started on the stage in 1925. Her first film, which she denies, is 1927.
Honey, come on. If
And
I
then-
started on the stage, that wasn't my first film.
No. 25 and 27. You are billed as having a cameo in The Knights of Broadway, but you deny that. But you'll admit to starring in a movie in 1929 called Through Different Eyes.
I didn't star in it.
You were in it.
I was in it.
Okay. And then in the
I made
30s,
some
she was
money.
you were one of the icons of the 30s, about which we'll talk about. And in the 90s, in movies, she played Mahjong on screen
Stop
with
applauding yourself.
a miscast Shirley MacLaine, and she was the grandmother who saved the world last year in Mars Attacks. So that's a pretty long track record. 30s, 40s, and then when you weren't making movies, you were on the stage.
50s, 60s,
50s
80s.
and
Come
60s
on.
and okay.
I got him. Let's get it straight right now. I never knew how to earn a living except by what we call acting.
You never
Go.
did anything else.
What?
You never did anything else. That was it. From
Never did anything else to earn any money.
Here are some of the titles of Miss Sidney's films, and I asked her on the way down the car tonight if we could look at some excerpts from the films, and she said something which isn't repeatable in polite company, but to the effect that I could do what I want, that it was my show tonight.
What do you mean I can't repeat?
I can't repeat it in polite
Oh,
company.
you're so young.
Okay. Anyway, she said we could do what we want. I want you to see some choice scenes from some of Miss Sidney's films. I chose 3 short scenes, but we'll get to them in a minute. I just want to give you a kind of resume of her career, and let me talk, and then we'll.
Is that all up there?
It's going to be.
And I don't have to see
You don't
it?
have to see it. You're
Thank
spared.
God.
You're spared. She said on the way down, it's all so boring, but of course it isn't. She starred with these people: Spencer Tracy, Henry Fonda, Fred MacMurray, Joel McCrea, Gary Cooper. Who else? And you were directed by James Cagney, right? You were directed by William Wyler, Fritz Lang 3 times, William K.
Fritz
Howard.
Lang, everybody thought he was
Hitchcock.
one of the most evil men that ever lived, one of the greatest human beings, and one of the great friends of my whole life.
I'm glad to set the record straight, because there's a recent biography that takes a
I'll tell
different
you, no.
tack on that.
Fritz Lang at that time, it was, mon régisseur est arrivé. And every time Fritz used to come on the set with the monocle and all that, I would get up and salute and make the whole cast do that and say, mon régisseur est arrivé. And of course, it took the curse off everything, because everybody thought, how do you talk to Fritz Lang? This is the great German director. And I found Fritz to be one of the mushiest guys that ever lived, and one of the dearest friends I ever had in my whole life. And there was no sex.
These are some of the titles.
Never had sex with any director. What's wrong with me?
These are some of the titles of your films. City Streets, Street Scene, American
What worries
Tragedy.
you? What are you so in such a panic about? What's those hands?
American Tragedy, Jenny Gerhardt,
So,
Dead End, You Only Live Once, Fury, You and Me, One Third of a Nation, Blood on the Sun,
no, you got to say Beetlejuice, please.
Beetlejuice, Mars Attacks, Damien, Omen Part 2, Cop Killers.
I don't know. Cop Killers,
No,
out.
Trail
out,
of the
out.
Lonesome Pine, right. Mary Burns Fugitive. Oh, I said that, right.
What?
Right.
Who?
Behold my wife.
Behold my wife. Oh, you're terrible. Oh, God. One of the worst pictures ever made.
Right. Okay, I want to start out by showing you a short classic scene from Dead End, which was 1937, directed by William Wyler, based on the play by Sidney Kingsley, screenplay by Lillian Hellman. And this is a quintessential moment of Sylvia Sidney's iconography from the 30s.
I'm
when
glad
she,
you told me.
if you stay around, you might learn something tonight.
Do I have to?
You do. This moment, this passage from the film sort of defines Sylvia Sidney's image in the 30s. You tended, in fact, somebody said, she's going to bring her ironing board tonight.
No.
Because you
Honey,
tended
I was
to
the
play-
highest paid laundress in motion pictures for years, because every time there was a scene, I was ironing a shirt, and I would say, "What would Mama say?" to some idiot brother
But
who was always doing something
you
wrong.
always had a brother in lots of times.
I
You had a
was paid
younger
by
brother.
the tear then.
But she was the quintessential Depression-era heroine, and you sort of defined
Well,
you
come
were.
on, you're over-dramatizing
No, I'm
the
not.
whole thing.
I'm telling the truth. Look at this scene and see if
Oh,
you don't
you
agree with me. Jason, are we ready? We can't see
Save
it.
my
but
life.
we're
Thank you,
spared.
ma'am.
But
Thank you, sir.
How'd you do? Get out of here. Come on, Trina. What's going to be for supper? Dude, I'm lucky to have it. Maybe I could buy us something nice. Maybe I could buy us a soda.
What with? What have you been up to?
Nothing. I've been up to nothing. I was just thinking how hot you look, and a soda. Hi, Dave.
Don't think out loud. I'm here.
Oh, Brina. Hey, you're home early. Any news?
Mm-hmm. Maybe good news. Today the boss said our committee should come in and talk things over. And maybe, just maybe, that raise would mean a lot. I could get him away from here.
Far enough away?
I don't know. I can only try.
You'll be all right. You'll always be all right.
I'll be all right. Drina will be all right. Drina was good to her mother. Drina's good to her brother. Drina works hard. Drina works and cooks and cleans and goes to bed to get enough sleep to get up the next day and work. I've heard that ever since I was 10 years old. I'm tired of hearing it. Don't say it again.
You want something for yourself now?
That's right. Maybe I'll go away. I mean, far away. Mm-hmm. You see, I know a man. He's very rich and he likes me. I met him in the subway. He's very good looking. It was so hot and crowded. When I got out, I was dizzy and he took my arm. And apologized, of course, for speaking to me like that. And he brought me a glass of water and we started talking. He looked so clean. You know, like they always do. Well, I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't care. And he took me to dinner. The kind of dinner where you can order anything you like. He's very, very rich. He's got a house in New York and a wonderful house in the country. I like that one best. Because it looks like a Christmas card. With chickens and snow. He likes me very, very much.
Do you like him?
I don't know. I made it all up. Not now, years ago when I was a kid. I know that house in the country so well, I could almost build it. He'd be young and very kind.
I wish I could buy you those things. I even wish I could find him for you.
Do you?
Hey, Pascagli, what's the money? You know, like it a water?
You have an unfair advantage over me because you've been watching me, not me watching me. I don't know what the hell you just saw.
That was the scene from Dead End, Drina. Now that was the kind of part that you kept getting cast in the 30s.
That's the way I made him knuckle. What are you talking? That's the kind of part.
Did you feel you were typecast?
Oh, honey, what difference did it make? I was making money. They paid me to play those parts. I got a little bored with it because I
Yes.
got fitted for the same prison outfit I can't tell you how many times. And that same, little dress with the little collar here. And you don't show any boobs, you don't show any hips, you don't look sexy. Although the directors thought I was.
What was it about your persona that was right for those parts? They saw that part in you, that kind of part, the street scene
That was
part.
right. No, once you do it, then you're stuck with it.
What was it? City Streets did it, or street
No,
scene?
City Streets was different because the story about City Streets is very interesting in that my hero, my darling, Ruben Mamoulian, who taught at the Theater Guild School, and he was brought to California to make Clara Bow an actress, because Clara Bow, every time she saw a microphone, had a nervous breakdown. And finally, Ruben, I was out there to do something else, I've forgotten now, said, if you give me Sylvia Sidney for this part in this movie, I will give you a star. And they said, the man's out of his mind. Who's that ugly kid? Because I was always called an ugly kid. With her eyes are too far apart, the mouth is too big, she doesn't have a chin, and Wanger and people like that kept saying, that ugly kid, what are we going to do with her? She's a good actress, but my God, she's so ugly. And finally, Ruben said, if you give me that kid, that ugly kid, in city streets, I will give you a star. And thank God for Ruben. He did it.
He did it. But that film did cast you in a certain milieu. You were from the city, you were working class, or you were struggling. You were always tended to be cast as somebody who was economically
Well, I was such an
struggling.
ugly kid. They kept saying she's got to, move the tenements.
So they got you stuck in the tenements there. I don't think ugly is the right word, do you, with those?
Well, that's what they thought I was.
Well,
Because Jesse Lasky once came into the commissary, and he was with, I've forgotten who now. Oh, Lasky. Jesse Lasky was with Zucker. And they saw me in the commissary. And Zucker said, "Who's that ugly kid?" And Jesse Lasky said, "She could be the White Hope of Paramount."
and you were.
Well, at that time,
You were there at the same time as Marlene
Paramount
Dietrich.
went down to 2, went down to 3, went down to 3 or 4, or maybe more. I used to sing that at about 2 o'clock in the morning when we would be shooting and shooting and shooting. And then I would dance around the camera and say, "Fight on for old DC, for Paramount. It's down to 3, or maybe 3 or more, or maybe 2 or 3, or maybe 1 or 2. Fight on for Paramount." And Schulberg caught me doing that one night. Oh, that was not nice.
Were you signed to what was traditional then, the 7-year contract?
Yeah. No, it wasn't 7. Mine was 5.
5.
Which
And
meant
did you stay the whole 5 years, or did you break the contract?
no. Lubitsch helped me. Lubitsch was wonderful. He called me one day and he said, "They're going to send you to general service." At that time, to be sent to an independent studio meant you were 3 legs down the ladder, or maybe 3 or 4. And Lubitsch said, "Don't fight it. If you fight it, they will add time to your contract and they will take you off salary." And I found myself at a studio at that time called General Service. And I thought, oh, what a come down. What an awful thing to happen. And I also found myself the happiest lady in the world. I found a producer, Walter Wanger, who was producing independent films, and a director, William K. Howard, who was one of the great unsung heroes of the film industry during that period. And suddenly I found out how pictures were made. I had no idea. I would just, they say, stand in your marks, and I'd standing, and they say, cut, print, or something. And because of William K. Howard and Walter Wanger, I began to find out how a movie was made and what your function was in the movie. And to this day, I will thank Walter Wanger and William K. Howard for teaching me how to make a film. I had no idea.
And does that help an actor, that knowing the technique of filmmaking, about the use of the camera and editing and lighting?
It didn't matter that much to me, except that it mattered in this way, that I began to know what my function was, which up until then I just knew. Stand in the marks, go, go, give me, go. And somehow or other it got put together and it was a film. And until that experience with Wanger and Bill Howard, and later on a few other directors, and when I began to have my own way, when I began to say I don't want to sign, at that time they were offering me $7,500 a week, 52 weeks a year. That's pretty good money even now. And I suddenly looked around and I said, I don't think I can be happy here. And they kept saying, how can you be unhappy with that kind of money? I said, I want the right to do what I want to do. I don't want to be paid when I don't work. And I want the right to say I'm ready to make a film, and then I get paid.
Did you feel the studio system was intrusive in that
What?
way?
What?
The
What?
studio system was intrusive, that you felt somehow that you were being under contract, you didn't have complete freedom. They told you what parts to play. They told you who your directors were going to be.
You just said what I just said.
Yeah. That. Okay. So you did feel you had to break away from the studio
And
system.
I finally said, don't pay me when I don't work. And when I'm ready to work, have something ready for me. And it worked out fine, and that was the happiest time of my life in films.
But you did go to a number of other studios in the 30s. You weren't just
That was
at
later,
Paramount.
because I had the right to make outside films. That's how I got to know Fritz Lang, doing Fury with
At
Tracy.
MGM.
And I chose to do Fury at a lot less money than I was offered for other films. But I had a thing about Tracy, because I'd known him in the theater. And I said, nobody knows that this is a leading man. Because up until that time, he was always cast as a heavy or a second lead. And I gave up a lot of money to do Fury. And I don't mind it a bit.
If you've seen it recently, it really holds up. It's one of the classics of the 30s. It's a brilliant
What'd you
film.
just say?
I said it's one of the classics of the 30s. It really holds up.
Fury's a brilliant movie.
It remains so. It's not dated at all. I want to talk about some of your directors, some of whom you liked, some of whom you didn't like.
I'll tell
Joseph von Sternberg, American Tragedy.
Ugh.
I knew I was going to get that
Ugh.
answer.
He only knew backlighting because it was Marlene Dietrich's look. Backlight and all the gold spray on her hair. Yeah.
He didn't care about actors. It was just
He
the
didn't
image.
know about actors. He only knew about film. You know, cut it there, make it there. And for somebody like me at that time, just from the theater, I thought this man was an idiot. And I later found out he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He made some great films. He made some great films, but American Tragedy
Name
is not
one.
one of them.
Name
All
one.
of the Marlene Dietrich films are great to look at. They're beautiful lighting, beautiful sets and
That's
mise
it.
en scène.
Beautiful lighting, beautiful
Yes.
sets.
Well, they're something to look at. American Tragedy was remade more successfully as Place in the Sun. That was better than Place in the Sun was better than the von Sternberg's version of American Tragedy.
Honey, anything was better than Von Sternberg's version of American Tragedy.
The director who directed you in that scene we just saw, William Wyler. How did he work for you as a director?
Willie had a space between two teeth. And he would say, do it again. And you say, what? Do it again. Then he'd move the camera 3 inches. And he'd say, do it again. You know, after about 90 takes of hello, how are you want to say, ah!
But why are there always good performances in his films? He must have done.
'Cause
I've
he
heard
wore
that
everybody
before.
out.
Okay, I've heard that. He wore everybody out, and then what you get after you're worn out is a very naturalistic, understated performance. It's
That's
very
what you
underdone.
say.
That's what I say. That's what I see on the screen. Alfred Hitchcock.
He got lucky. Wyler, because Goldwyn thought he was the greatest thing that ever happened, allowed him to take 80 takes, 90 takes, 100, because black and white film was very cheap. The minute they got into color, Wyler became non-existent as a director. Check me if I'm wrong.
He made Ben-Hur in color.
What?
He made films in color.
Yeah, but
Ben-Hur.
under terrific duration.
Alfred
Didn't make
Hitchcock.
many films in color.
Another director not said to be friendly to actors, Alfred Hitchcock.
I adored him.
You did.
Yeah,
I'm
because he thought
surprised.
I was an idiot.
That's why you adored him?
Well, how can you go wrong with a director who thinks you're a fool or an idiot? So anything you do is, okay. He says, "I'll print it."
Oh, okay, now I'm going to show you an excerpt from Sabotage. It's a very famous passage when, well, I don't want to tell what happens because people haven't seen it. They'll discover it for
Yeah,
themselves.
but I don't see it.
We can take you down into the audience if you want to.
You expect me at my age to keep moving back and forth?
You what? Jason, do we have Sabotage set up? Anyway, this is a great passage from Sabotage. Beautiful directing, beautiful filmmaking, and a great performance from Sylvia Sidney. And you
It
don't
was not
say
a great
word.
performance.
You
no,
don't
no,
say
no.
a word.
No, no.
He can take care of himself. You've got nothing to worry about. Give me a piece.
Alex, the news big bomb sensation. Alex, the news, light X, the news big bomb sensation. Alex, the news, light X, the news big bomb sensation. Big bomb sensation, light X, the news, light X.
Come on, keep back. Get out of the way now. Come on.
Give us a minute. Please go away.
I want Mr. Verloc. I want to see Mr. Verloc.
I didn't mean any harm to come to the boy. Come on. You've got to think of tomorrow. You'll need all your wits about you if they get on to me. You might answer a fellow. Do be reasonable. What would it have been if you had lost me? That swine in the aquarium. Silly, jeering, dangerous brute with no more sense than... You didn't know. Quite right, too. I'm not the chap to worry a woman that's fond of me. You have no business to know. You'll have to pull yourself together, my girl. What's done can't be undone. You go to bed now. What you want is a good cry. I know how you feel. Do you think it doesn't touch me? Do you think I fixed it so that he'd be killed? No. But I tell you who did. Your Scotland Yard friend from next door, Ted. Blame him. I'd have carried the thing myself, but he was hanging around watching, spying. I couldn't get away. Listen. It's done now. And there's the future. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps if we had a kid of our own.
Later, man.
Things to stop. Young Stevie ain't in, but I've laid for him. But I'll be getting along now.
Robin. Kills Cock Robin. Kills Cock Robin. Who got him with a shot and put him on the spot? Kills Cock Robin. And vanished like a phantom in the dark.
Pull yourself together a bit. That's better. Never green. Why can't that woman cook green stuff any better? Surely she's been long enough here to know how fond I'm of that sort of thing.
What the hell was that? Will somebody please tell me? What the?
I don't think I want any cabbage. Couldn't we send next door for some?
Sylvia Sidney, movie actress, couldn't kill anybody. I remember coming in early one morning, and Hitchcock said, "Oh, those are your marks." Showed me my marks. I can't tell what the hell you're watching. Oh, why?
What's up?
What I do? What? We walked into the night. Margaret. What?
Stevie. Stevie.
That's unfair. You're wrong.
Well, we didn't plan it
What?
right. We didn't set it up right for you.
What'd I do? What'd I do? Did I kill him?
Yes, but you
Oh.
did a lot more than that. You can tell from that scene that movie acting is about reacting, isn't it? About looking and responding to other people, and about
I'm
how
glad
to
you
take
told me.
and about how to take close-ups.
After all these years, I'm glad I found out what I do.
Maybe it's better if you don't know. You just do it by instinct.
I don't do anything by instinct
Ah.
anymore. I wouldn't trust my instinct as far as I could throw me.
So it's all by technique now.
No, it's all by what the director wants and what is needed in the scene or in the film.
Now, did Hitchcock direct you just in terms of movements, or did he give you emotional readings. He's supposed to treat actors like puppets or like cattle. Did you feel that way about him? He said, move here, move there, do
Oh,
this.
you're making it such a thing.
That's my job.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it tonight. No, Hitchcock was a wonderful guy. Also, he was very, very respectful of somebody who made money. Because I later found out, many years later, I was then allegedly the highest paid motion picture film actress. I was getting $10,000 a week to do that film. 8 weeks, that's it. You can't have me anymore. And Hitchcock had a great respect for money, which as I say, I found out many years later, because I'd heard all these terrible stories about him, that he tortured actresses, that he left them sitting on the set while the company left to have tea and all that. And he was always very respectful of me. And would you like to do it now? Would you like to do it there? Can we put it there? Can we do it this way? And I thought, what the hell is with this great English director? And he's giving me all this leeway. Don't you want it? And I later found out from, I can't remember his name, a guy who does a lot of movie biographies.
Donald Spoto.
Who?
Donald Spoto.
Spoto. That Hitchcock had an enormous respect for money. And he knew at that time that I was getting $10,000 a week and he was getting $750 a week. So he never played any tricks on me. You know, he said, don't fool with this old lady, a young woman. She makes a lot of money. And I didn't know, but if he had mistreated me in any way, I could have called the whole thing off and said, up yours, Mr. Hitchcock. But no, I adored him. No, that's wrong. I respected him. And he knew what he wanted when he wanted it. And there was no mucking around with him. That's the way it had to be.
Is it true that he wouldn't let you play scenes from beginning to end, that you do it sometimes backwards? You'd start a scene at the end and you'd play it out of order. You wouldn't play scenes from beginning to end. You'd start a scene at the end, film the ending before you filmed the beginning, so that it was all filmed out of sequence in just bits and pieces.
Well, that's your lovely dream.
Not true?
No. With Hitch, you played, well, he had his script, and he had little sketches along with all the dialogue, and he would tell you, this is what I need here, this is what I need there. I don't want to, I need just one close-up. I don't need a 2-shot. I do need a 3-shot here. And so you knew when you saw his script exactly what it's what we used to call cutting in the camera. And Mr. William K. Howard was one of the first of the cutting in the camera guys. Hitchcock, Fritz Lang were the guys that cut in the camera. And with Fritz, I used to say, what am I supposed to do now? And he says, you're supposed to run like hell through the room. And I say, well, give me a push. So camera would be here, and I'd be there with Fritz, and Fritz would give me a shove, and I go, shoo, around the set. What?
Go ahead.
I couldn't do it on my own propulsion. I had to have somebody get, and then I did it.
I want to talk a little bit about acting technique. you studied for theater at the Theater Guild School originally.
Yeah.
And that was training primarily for the theater rather than film, was it not?
Well, I was a stage actress before.
And then once you started making films, did you have to shift gears and shift techniques? Is there a difference between stage acting and film acting in terms of
No,
technical preparation?
People will tell you if you learn to do stage acting, it can't be translated into the screen because you've got to pull back. That's not true. Truth in acting is the answer. Honesty and belief in what you say is the answer. Sorry, there are no young actors here.
And so it doesn't matter what medium you're working in.
I don't give a damn. I just worked with Tim Burton, who I think is one of the most talented young directors today. I think he's made some big mistakes, and he has a right to make them. He's got to get it out of his system. But boy, is he a good director. Oh, God. He knows truth.
And so that cuts across all the films and
It
all
cuts
the
across
eras,
everything. If you say hello, just say hello. And what you say hello about is what hello is. I gotta say hello to you. Hello. Gotta say hello to you. Hi. Gotta say hello to you. Hello. It depends. And as you develop a character, and as the character develops and what the scene is about and what the story is about, you fit into that groove. You have to. You cannot say, I want to play it like that, or I want to play it like that. I want to be an ostrich. Go be an ostrich on somebody else's time.
But in film acting, I always think that eyes are more important than anything else. And
What?
Eyes. What's going on in the eyes? It's not even so much what you're
Oh,
saying.
honey, if the close-up isn't on you, you can fuck around with your eyes for the rest of your life.
But in the close-ups, you have to deliver with your eyes. Close-ups. Stars take close-ups, and close-ups are about projecting something through eyes. Ethel Merman didn't make it in the movies.
You can't think of it that way. If you're playing a part and the scene develops from a long shot to a 3-shot to a 2-shot, and over the shoulder close-ups, you don't say, eyes. Come on. You're playing a scene. You're playing a portion of a character.
You worked with a lot of actors just about the time they were becoming stars, or you noticed that they were going to become stars. Cary Grant and Gary Cooper and Spencer Tracy and Henry Fonda. You worked with them very early in their careers.
I love them.
And Humphrey Bogart. Did you sense that all of them were destined to have major careers? I mean, did you make that kind of...
No, wait a minute. You're off it. When I worked with Spencer, that was something very important to me because at that time Spencer was the second leading man, a heavy, and I had adored Spencer on stage. He was a brilliant actor. So when we did Fury, I gave up a lot of money to do Fury to promote Spencer Tracy. That's not because I'm such a good lady. It's just that I like to do a good thing every once in a while, but every once in a while, not often. Cary was already on his way.
The film they made together was Madame Butterfly.
Butterfly, we considered Carrie a stick. And very late, John Springer's here to back me up. Very, very late, a couple of years ago, we were going somewhere, and it was the end of Madame Butterfly. And I looked at a close-up of Cary Grant that I hadn't seen before or even cared about. And I said to John, good God, what an actor. Because we considered Cary Grant a stick. Well, Pinkerton in Madame Butterfly is a stick. But there was one shot of Cary Grant when he had to tell Butterfly that he had a white wife and he had another life. And John, do you remember when we saw that? Where the hell is John Springer? Do you remember when we saw that? And I said, my God, what a performance. With a close-up of Cary when he had to tell Butterfly. There are times.
But you didn't know that while you were making the film.
No,
You
I
thought
didn't
he was
know it
wooden
while I
and
was making
wasn't.
it. I couldn't have cared less. Because I was the star, and, you know, and everything was pointed toward me. And I didn't notice until, you know, years later, what a very good actor that man was.
He wasn't recognized as such. In the early 30s, he seemed awkward in films, and he didn't somehow
Well,
get you
come
to
on,
lose.
if you're playing Pinkerton, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Pinkerton is a stick.
Well, actually, Sylvia, you did the other picture with Carrie, 30-Day Princess.
Oh, that was later. That was later, yeah.
But I was very, very close to the tag. And he was very easy and relaxed, and it was very funny.
Now, 30-Day Princess, he was already in. He was already in.
Preston Sturges script.
How'd he get in?
Now, when you and Henry Fonda made You Only Live Once, you were fond of the director, but I believe that Mr. Fonda didn't share your enthusiasm for Fritz Lang. Am I right about
hated
that?
Fritz
He
Lang.
hated him. Okay.
He hated.
Why?
Well, he hated Fritz Lang. One, you will always find on a set when you're shooting, there's that semicircle of chairs. And you come in to talk about the scene, talk about the script, talk about what you're going to do, talk about cameras are setting up. And Fonda went crazy. And Fritz was an evil son of a bitch when he did this, because he would come and sit and kneel to me and bring his thermos. I made you soup. I made you coffee. I made you this. Don't you want that? I give you this, darling. I love you. And Fonda's way over there, and he's watching this communication. Except that Lang ain't going over there. And I don't know, Fritz was a very strange man, a very wonderful man. I just adored him.
So Fonda
But
felt
he
that you two
always-
were conspiring against him in a
That's
sense. He
right,
felt
that's
left
right.
out.
No, and Fonda be sitting over there, and Fritz would say, I love you, darling. I want you to have the soup, and I make the tea for you. And Fonda's sitting there going, you know, why doesn't he do something for me? Why doesn't he talk to me? What is he instructing her? She's going to steal the scene. He's got... Now, with Fonda, you didn't steal a scene. Fonda was a wonderful actor. And with whatever his hates were at that time, Fritz was important enough and I was important enough for him to go along with the gag. Had to.
But they didn't reverse it on you and then leave you out, the two of them talking together.
What are you playing?
When they left, did they leave you out? Did the two of them ever talk and you felt left out? They didn't play that trick on you.
To the day Fonda died, he hated Fritz Lang. Because he always thought there was something going on between me and Fritz that was going to make him look awful, which wasn't true at all.
You were with Gary Cooper in City Streets. That was one of his first films.
One of whose first films?
Gary Cooper's first films. He was just getting started.
It was my first
It was
film.
your first film, but it was also one of his first films.
No, it wasn't.
You want to bet?
Want to bet?
We have a nickel bet going here on something. If I surprise
Where did I
her.
get my nickels?
Did he seem like a beginner, or was he already a pro
No,
at that
Gary
time?
had been in a lot of films before that. There was Wings and...
Yes, he had been in a few. Yeah,
What?
yeah, he had made a few. He was more experienced than you were. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Right. You're right.
No, Gary Cooper, when I went into City Streets, was an experienced movie actor. And very busy with Lupe Velez. And I came in because Ruben Mamoulian said, give me that girl and I'll give you a star. And if it hadn't been for Mamoulian, anybody else, I would have left that contract like I left the one before. I would have said, psst. And also...
You did walk out on a film, didn't you? A Maurice
I
Chevalier
walked out on
film?
one contract. Well, the dumb thing was, I later found out, I could have walked out on many of those contracts because I was underage. And no major person, not my mother or my father, signed the contract for me. I just signed a contract, Jesse Lasky, Paramount, Walter Wage. And it was Charlie Feldman, yeah, agent, lawyer, who said, none of these contracts are valid. You can walk out on any of them. Because no person over age has signed them.
You first made films when you were under 18?
What?
You were under 18 at the beginning? When
Honey,
you first
I did
started?
everything under 18.
In the 40s and the 50s, you were less busy in movies than you'd been in the 30s. Is there a reason for that? Did you choose to spend more of your time on the stage or more of your time on personal life? But there was a falling off in the amount of films that you made. You worked so much in the 30s. I mean, it was an extraordinary number.
I worked so much in the 30s, and I was hot as a pistol as, what's his name? One of the directors, William, said, she's hot as a pistol, she's hot as a pistol. And I met Luther, and I wanted to return to the theater, and I wanted to be married, and I wanted to have a baby, which I did do. And I had a nice life. I didn't care about being a movie actress much. I care about it now because there's a hell of a lot of money in it. But
You told me when one of the times we talked that if I saw your last film, Mars Attacks, I'd know that at this point you work for the money, not for the art.
honey, Mars Attacks. You call that a film?
I thought it was terrible.
Jesus.
It was awful. Some of my students liked it, but they're young.
No, but again, you see, I have a big thing about Tim Burton. I think he's one of the incredibly talented young men in movies today. He has a right to make a mistake. Unfortunately, He made a mistake that cost $80 million. $80 million today in a film is nothing. I saw the budget, and while I was on the film, I said to Tim, I said, "You're gonna bomb." And Tim, I just adore him. I think after Mars Attacks, because it was such a bomb, it made a lot of money, but it was a bomb for a director. I think Tim will go back to doing a very simple movie again, and about a very simple story, because the first script he gave me of, I remember it was Beetlejuice, and it was about, it was Mars Attacks, about an old lady who turns on a record and the world goes nuts. It was a very simple, teeny story. Well, it became Mars Attacks. And I told Tim, I said, the only thing wrong with you as a director is you make Jack Nicholson look like a bad actor.
If you've seen
Which
the
is
film,
very
you know
hard
that's
to
true.
do.
It's hard to do, but it happened that
What?
time. It happened in that one.
Very hard to do,
Yeah.
because I think Jack Nicholson is wonderful.
Can you tell us who else you think is terrific these days among the contemporary actors? Who else you are fond of in terms of work, that you see the work on the screen, you think this is a good actor, this is somebody who really knows what he's doing?
What are you so nervous about?
Answer
Oh, he's blushing. You're afraid I'm going to say somebody you don't like or somebody you like a lot?
No, I'm not afraid at all. I want to hear what you have to say.
You mean, let me see, what do I see late at night?
Do you go to
what's
movies?
his
Are you a
name?
moviegoer?
He's wonderful. Kevin.
Kevin Spacey.
Huh?
Spacey.
Spacey. No, Kevin Klein. What? Kentner. He's very... I got the wrong Kevin.
No.
No, not Kevin Klein. Could be.
Do we have any questions?
There are a lot of young, good young, and they're not that young. They're in middle age now, but they're very good actors. I don't happen to be a moviegoer. I'm not even a theater goer. I'm a stay-at-homer. But there are a lot of very good actors around today in films and in the theater. I don't think it's the worst thing that ever happened. I don't think it's the best thing that ever happened. It'll happen. They'll become big stars, or they'll go by the way, like a lot of people I've seen go by the way. It happens. I was online with a lot of young actresses. And we're online for a producer to look at us, say, I like that one, I don't like that one, I want that one, I don't want that one. His name was A.H. Woods. He was one of the big producers on Broadway at that time. I'm talking about the late 20s, the early 30s. And I came online with the next one, and he said to me, "Hello, Irish." And I said, "What?" And he said, "With that nose, you gotta be Irish." And I said, "With that nose, I'm Jewish." And he said, "She can act. We'll start rehearsals on Wednesday." And so the play, I didn't know what the play was. I came to rehearsal, and I said to the stage manager sitting there with a card table and parts. We only had parts then. It's what you call parts today. It ain't the same thing. And you got a script. And I came and I said, my name's Sylvia Sidney. He said, oh, you're Annabelle. I said, oh. And he handed me a script, and they tell me I went like this. That meant it weighed a lot. It was a good part. And I went right to the star's chair. And everybody said, who does she think she is? But I knew I had a part that thick, big part. And finally, the director said, do you mind, Miss Sidney, moving? Because the star has to sit here. The director was Guthrie McClintock. The star was James Rennie, who was a great matinee idol at the time and married to Dorothy Gish. And all I knew is I had this part. Just that thick. I said, I got a good one. I got a good one. And we never knew what the play was. We just had the parts. So you had to listen. All you got were cues, and you had to listen. And that was the great thing that George M. Cohen taught us all. And his great thing always on stage was listening. And once you learned to listen, you began to know how to act. Muy.
Okay, that's a good acting lesson. Right? I said acting is reacting. Do we have any questions?
Sylvia, what was your best picture?
What?
What was your best picture?
Get up.
What was your best picture? What's your favorite picture?
It was Bill Jordan.
I can't hear you, and you're not making any sense.
Well, I thought you would answer that question. What was your
Stand up and be heard.
What was your best picture?
What was my last one?
Best.
I hope not.
Your best picture.
My best? Oh, I'm still alive.
Who was the best kisser?
What?
Who was the best kisser?
Who was the best one?
The best kisser.
Oh, honey. The ones I slept with, I never acted with. The best kisser was Luther Adler.
Your husband.
Well, he was my husband for a while.
How was it working with Joanne Woodward?
Why do you ask a silly question like that? I adore Joanne. She's a great, great lady. And working with her always has been a good time, a good experience, because she's a hell of an actress and she's a hell of a lady. What do you want to know about him? Well, I'm not there, kid. What, are you dead?
Yes. Yes.
What? Get up.
Miss Sidney, some years ago, I was privileged to see you play the title role in Auntie Mame in Philadelphia on the stage.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I wondered if you enjoyed playing that part of the plain-speaking Auntie Mame.
I adored playing it. I adored playing it. And I thought I was very good at it. Better than Roz Russell.
Yes, in the back.
I'll probably get wrapped for this, but I want to ask it anyway.
Welcome to the club.
Louder.
Do you read the novels on which your films, or did you read the novels on which your films were based? I mean, we saw Sabotage, which is from Joseph Conrad's novel, The Secret Agent. So I'm just curious, did you read anything about, I mean, did you study for the parts which we hear so much about today, that actors, you know, do all kinds of research?
Did you read the novels on which some of your films were based? American Tragedy, Jenny Gerhardt?
Honey, when I was 15, I would read it with a spotlight and hide it from my mother, because I was not allowed to read something like American Tragedy. What was the other one he asked about?
Sabotage, which is based on...
Sabotage was based on a story by Joseph Conrad called Secret Agent, which had nothing to do with sabotage.
Well, they kept the names.
What?
They kept the names. Mr. Verloc. They kept the names.
They kept the name of it. Well, but that was Hitchcock. He had the power. What happened? Everybody dry up?
Yes.
Wow.
This is the part that you would have liked to have played that you didn't.
Wait a minute, one at a time.
What part would you like to have played, but you didn't?
Honey, I made too much money to care.
Audition for roles? Are you still open to working in theatre? And do you still look for roles or plays that have weight?
Take your hand away from your mouth and repeat.
Yes.
Do you audition, or are you simply called for a role? Are you open?
Do you audition, or are you simply called for a role? Did you audition for Mars
At my
Attacks?
age, audition? Are you nuts?
Open to working in theatre, and do you still look for roles that are hefty?
Are you open to working in theater? Are you interested in working in the
Honey,
theater?
I'll take a job any day.
Good.
If they pay me enough.
Other questions? Yes.
Can you tell us about any shared experiences with Judy Garland?
What?
Judy Garland.
What do you want to know about Judy Garland? None of your business. Oh, you're naughty. You've been looking something up.
Yeah.
I've been talking. I haven't been talking in my sleep, I know.
Yes, in the back.
I hear a lot that actresses are treated very...
Stand up.
She is saying.
I'm short. It's kind of twofold. My grandmother always said to me, be very happy that you're a woman now in this day and age. And I wonder if you feel that translates into your life with acting. Do you think it would have been better for now, or you paved the way?
Wait a minute, you started with your grandmother. Now where do we go from there?
Can you relate the question?
Is this a good... You're suggesting Miss Sidney was a kind of proto-feminist to pave the way, in a way, for women in film and women to have careers?
Oh, honey, that's dumb. You know, what the hell was I fighting with males about? Who could play the parts I played? There was never anything in my life where I said, I gotta fight the men. I gotta be there, you know. That's dumb. I didn't have to worry about somebody on balcony 4, you know, taking my job. How could he? He couldn't play the parts I played. If he did, he'd be a schmuck.
Yes.
Miss Sidney, my name is Sylvia.
Stand up, stand up.
My name is Sylvia. My mother named me after you.
Your name is Sylvia?
And she named me after you.
Named after you. That is a big deal. Okay, I think we're going to end things here, but I want to summarize a little bit. Do you know what Betty Davis said about you?
Good God.
I surprised you. I get a nickel. Betty Davis said that there were only two women in Hollywood who were stronger and firmer than I am, Ida Lupino and Sylvia Sidney.
No.
Yes, she did say that.
I adored Betty.
I know you did, but she obviously thought a lot about you, too. I surprised you. Okay. When I called Miss Sidney a few months ago to say that we wanted to set up this tribute this evening, she said, honey, forget it. And I think we can all agree that we're very privileged for the fact that I didn't forget it, and here we are, having had this pleasure of spending this time with Sylvia Sidney.